Tell us about yourself, Harold. What did you do in these gliders here?
Okay, World War II, glider pilot. The CG-4A Waco was used extensively in airborne operations in the war. World War II, they were used in Europe and Asia, both. When it came time for Normandy D-Day, June 6, 1944, I flew a glider, but it wasn't this tight. It was a British Horsa, which is double the size of this rascal. I had 2 Jeeps in that. This particular type glider would only carry 1. And that was one of the specifications that the Army had for bids on combat gliders, that it had to carry a Jeep. So Waco got the bid, and they produced about 13,000 of these things. And I flew one more combat mission, Operation Market Garden, the invasion of Holland, and I flew one of these. And for that load, I had a 75mm field artillery piece. We were a little shy on glider pilots at that time, and most of us flew single pilot. So I had to fly that whole mission all by myself. The guy in the right seat was the sergeant in charge of the gun team, and he didn't know anything about flying. I was shot down on that one.
Where did you come down, Harold?
In northern Belgium. I never did get to Holland. Enemy ground fire shot out my rudder controls, so I had no rudder. So I had no directional control. So I just landed. I had to cut off immediately, and came down in this was September, came down in a harvested grain field, slammed through a fence and plowed up 30, 40 bushels of potatoes. But no one was hurt, and the load was secure. And then the power pilots.
Can you tell us that piece of fabric that you got off the plane? Can you describe that experience?
Oh, yeah. After we got down on the ground, the first thing I did when I got out of the glider was to go out of the tail, to survey the damage. Oh boy, the whole tail had been shot up. Fabric was gone, the wood stringers were gone, the cables for the rudder were just hanging loose. Well, I found out the town that we had come down near. So using my trench knife, I cut off a piece of fabric. And on the back of that, I wrote down the name of the sergeant who was in charge of the gun team and the town, Maldegem, near which I had come down. And I still have a few pieces of that fabric.
It's fantastic.
But the darn thing was punctured, full of bullet holes and shrapnel holes. Well, something else.
So what was it like to fly a glider like this, a CG-4A? How did she handle?
This glider was very maneuverable, easy on the controls. Actually, one day at Aldermaston, another glider pilot and I were test flying a glider, and there were some beautiful cumulus clouds roaming through that day. And each one had a nice updraft under it. And we were able to soar from one cloud to the other. We stayed within a safe distance of the field. We stayed up for about an hour under those clouds, just going from one to the other. Then we had to come down because I had a weekend pass. And we really had to struggle to get that thing down on the runway. We took the whole runway.
Wow, fantastic.
Full spoilers, a rather fast landing speed, but we got down.
Great, great. How does it fly compared to the Horsa?
Oh, the Horsa was a Bearcat. That thing was very, very heavy on the controls. I like to compare it with driving an 18-wheeler that doesn't have power steering.
Okay.
Very heavy on the controls. We were out on maneuvers one time, and my glider started swinging back and forth. We called it oscillation. It took the co-pilot and I on the controls to correct that and get back behind the tow plane. And the trouble was, we were out over the English Channel at that time. We would fly south to the channel, east along the coast, and back inland. These were maneuvers before Normandy. I wasn't about to cut off and land in the channel.
Yeah.
But the way we were swinging back and forth, actually it was a danger to the tow plane setups on either side of me.
So let's talk about Normandy. On D-Day, you flew the Horsa into Normandy.
Yeah.
And where did you come down in Normandy? Do you remember exactly the spot, the location?
Well, the little community, well, is on the map. I never did see this place, but supposedly near a very small farming community of Heisville. The French pronounce it Iezi.
Okay.
And that's, I don't know, 8 or 9 miles inland from Utah Beach.
Gotcha. And what, who did you take over there on D-Day? What did you have in the Horsa?
Okay. I had 2 Jeeps and 3 paratroopers in charge of the Jeeps.
Were they from the 101st Airborne?
Yes. And these paratroopers had never been in a glider before, and nobody on a glider operation, combat operation, had a parachute. So here were these paratroopers, no parachute, and a glider, never been in one before. Oh, Walter Cronkite, during the war, was a war correspondent. And one of his assignments was to be in a glider going into Holland. Well, some years after the war, in one of the books that he wrote, very interesting quote. He said that flying into combat in a glider is a sure cure for constipation.